This is Gotham TV Podcast, episode 96, where we are looking at Gotham Season 3, episode 17, The Primal Riddle.
I'm David Mazuz, and you're listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
This is Drew Powell, and you are listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
This is Robin Lloyd Taylor, and you are listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
Welcome back, Gothamites. Welcome back, detectives. Yes, we are here looking at episode 17 of season 3 of Gotham, The Primal Riddle. Yes, the Riddler is getting many an episode at this moment in time.
Absolutely.
And quite rightly too. I am one of your riddling hosts, John.
And I'm one of your other hosts, Derek. Welcome back.
Yeah.
Lots of cool news as well this time.
Lots of news, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some interesting ones to kick off. Probably the biggest news that's come out is about Gotham Season 4. So happy they are over at Fox with Gotham. They're bringing this show back for Season 4 a week earlier than originally planned.
Ooh, excitement rises along with the heroes.
That's right. Yeah, Gotham Season 4 will be airing on Fox in the US and in Canada and North America, I guess, on the 21st of September. Thursday, the 21st of September. So it has moved to a new night, as we knew earlier on in the season. No longer Gotham Mondays now, Gotham Thursdays. But yeah, it's going to be happening on Thursdays from the 21st of September, John.
Excellent.
Yes. That leads us on to our other piece of news.
Yes. Our other piece of news, which is that we will be covering Gotham Season 4 at the same pace as our friends and brethren in North America. Yes.
That's right.
We are moving from our podcast home here, and as such, we will be able to cover Gotham at the US pace.
That is definitely the benefit, definitely. Unfortunately, if you were a YouTube watcher and have been watching our episodes on YouTube, this is there's only going to be a few more episodes in this little room here with our lovely Gotham photographs in the background and our Oswald Cobblepot for Mayor poster behind me. Only a few more episodes of that before we shut down Season 3 of Gotham TV Podcast and move on to Season 4 very quickly. Following the US pace, but really excited to get back to the US pace though.
Absolutely, but of course, whether you are listening at the American pace, the Irish pace, the Central European pace, the Australian pace,
or the Netflix pace,
or the Netflix pace,
binging our podcast just like you binge the show on Netflix. Exactly.
You can, of course, find our podcast over on Apple Podcasts. Just go to defenderstvpodcast.com/iTunes. Just go to gothamtvpodcast.com/iTunes. And of course, you can subscribe. And indeed, if you want to, leave a review over at Apple Podcasts.
Go on.
And of course, you can search any other good podcast catcher of your choice. Just search Gotham TV Podcast.
Absolutely.
And we will, of course, always be around on Facebook. You can like our page, or you can join our Facebook group. Just go over to facebook.com/groups/Gotham TV Podcast.
Yeah, and we love getting feedback. So if you want to email us feedback, you can email us to feedback@gothamtvpodcast.com. You can record a voicemail for us over on our website at gothamtvpodcast.com as well. And a big reminder, I put it out on our Twitter feed today over at Gotham TV Podcast. Just a reminder, we do have a Bullockism competition, which will be closing out at the end of the season. Just a couple more episodes to go, really, towards the end of the season. But all you need to do is just tell us your favourite Bullock moment from Gotham Season 3. There have been loads of great ones. Pop onto the website. I've got a full list of everything that we've called out as the Bullock moments of the season. And then you can email in any of those or any ones we may have missed and pop into a competition where you can win a Harvey Bullock pop vinyl. You can win the base cards for Season 1 of the Gotham Trading Cards, kindly donated by one of our listeners, and some other cool prizes that we'll be sending out to the one lucky winner of that competition. One other tiny announcement before we get into the episode. We are on episode 96 of our podcast. That means we're going to be coming up on episode 100, a big milestone for us after, 3.5 years of covering Gotham. Big milestone to reach 100 episodes since the show was only around 66 episodes long. We did pretty well to get a few extra episodes in there. So make sure you send us in any thoughts that you want to for our 100th episode, any favourite moments from the show, or any voicemail just to say hi. You are welcome to send them in for our 100th episode, which will be happening in 4 episodes' time.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think that is all with the public service announcements so far. So I think it's on to our spoiler-filled review where we will cover this episode 17, The Primal Riddle, with our 5 case notes. But first off, Derek, what were the production notes on this one?
A first-time director over on Gotham has joined the season. Meha Vervillo, I believe is how her name is pronounced. Done lots of TV work, worked over on Hawaii Five-0, Person of Interest, Rush Hour and Elementary, loads of TV work, and most of it within 2016-2017. So moved around a lot of TV shows across many different networks as well. So really cool to have him on board for this episode.
Or her.
Yeah, this episode was written by Stephen Lillian and Brian Winbrandt. We know them from earlier episodes in the season. They did Follow the White Rabbit.
Great episode.
Excellent episode with the Mad Hatter. And they also did Smile Like You Mean It, another episode with Jerome, a big villain of Gotham. And as you can see, they got a very big villain and a very big villainous moment in this episode of Gotham as well.
Yes.
John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for the episode?
Sure. After being tipped off by Barbara about the Court of Owls, Enigma goes on a vendetta to solve the riddle of who controls Gotham. Enigma takes Mayor Aubrey James hostage, televising a threat to end his life if he does not learn the identity of the court. Gordon arranges a meeting with Enigma at GCPD headquarters and convinces Enigma to have him escorted to the court himself. In exchange, Gordon takes the place of his deceased Uncle Frank in the Court of Owls as he shows his loyalty to Catherine and the rest of the court. Cobblepot and Ivy recruit Victor Fries and Bridget Pike for the army of freaks that he plans to use against Edward Nygma, aka the Riddler. Meanwhile, 514A, the Bruselganger, struggles to gain Alfred's trust and attempts to kill Selina by pushing her out of a window to cover up his true nature as a clone.
Oof, yes, some big moments in this episode.
Wow. A massive point in the Gotham verse. We get the kitties collecting around Selina as she's fallen from a window, or should I say pushed from a window by the evil Bruselganger, who basically said too much and then regretted it, so pushed her out the window. Which was pretty harsh, to be honest, but it really does mirror Batman Returns.
Absolutely,
does.
We are already in our case notes. Obviously, this is one of the big case notes. I think we'll just jump in and say that the case note number 1 is Catwoman Returns, right?
Really does,
because it's Batman Returns.
Is she?
Yeah, no. The moment is Catwoman Returns.
She really does, yeah.
Because it mirrors a big moment for any of us older Batman fans, right the way back from Batman Returns, the second film done by Tim Burton in the Batman series, where Michelle Pfeiffer's character falls out a window and is surrounded by cats who effectively bring her back to life and grant her with her 9 lives that all cats get.
That's it. They kind of lick her to death. Lick her to life, I should say. Lick her to life, nuzzle her, scent her, and this kitty cat power infuses the dead Michelle Pfeiffer, and I would suspect a similar kind of infusion of kitty power is gonna occur with Gotham's Selina Kyle.
Yes, it's really interesting. I wonder what will happen after this, because obviously we've just had her fall out a window, be pushed out a window by the Bruselganger. So this is quite a big moment. Will she remember that? Will she go after 514A and go to the Wayne Manor? Does she know that he did it? Will she knock on the head? Will that have wiped her memory a bit?
Are memories intact, or have they been lost? Will she remember he's the Bruselganger? Will she ever remember the original Bruce Wayne when presumably he escapes from his MC Escher prison? But certainly, it was kind of like it was a massive point in the episode, a real big shock. I certainly wasn't expecting him to push her out the window. I really didn't think that the Catwoman or Catgirl maybe at this stage, I don't know, whatever springs to mind at the time, whether that, I didn't realize that was going to happen in this episode. It's one of the delights of not being spoiled, actually. I've not seen anything about this, so this was a really big shock, and I love that it came from the fact that, you know, she tells 514A that the difference between him and Bruce is that he's trying to save her by telling her to get out of town and to save herself from the fall of Gotham as ordered by the Court of Owls, but that the real Bruce Wayne would try and save everyone.
Absolutely.
And it's a really nice little point on their relationship, that despite her not really wanting to be with him, be with the original Bruce Wayne, and she's told him to sort of back off and really to stay away, that nonetheless, that is her relationship with him is still there. She, you know, there is a friendship there.
Yeah.
And that ultimately that leads her to being pushed out of the window by 514A is really interesting, and you know, that the defense of Bruce has led to the formation of Catwoman.
Potentially the loss of her first life, yes.
Yeah, because, you know, she was going to head off and tell Alfred.
Yeah. It's a really interesting moment. Like, obviously, we've talked about how close these two characters have been on Gotham, Selina and Bruce, over the last 3 seasons. And, you know, comic book perspective, obviously, they've changed quite a lot from the comic books in terms of how Gotham produces its show. There's lots of other characters that Bruce knows as when he's a young kid that aren't involved with him, and Selina would be one that he gets to know later in life after he becomes Batman, and the two sides of them are mixed kind of a bit. It's interesting to see here. There's options now for her to forget Bruce and move on, having had that relationship with him, having him know her and her not know him. There is this point now that you can diverge the storylines where she can now become the villain and not have that relationship with Bruce Wayne for a while.
Yeah, but a charming, charismatic villain who, in the scheme of things, is stealing from the rich. It's almost Robin Hood to some extent, and that's probably why Bruce gives her a few passes.
She's just in it for herself. She doesn't rob the money to get a huge mansion or, you know, one last score. She doesn't rob banks. She'll generally just take enough money to cover her food costs and the cost of getting milk for her cats.
Definitely. I think, given that we've been talking about 514A, I think that's on to our second note here. And he has a sell-by date.
Yes.
Or should I say a use-by date, to be honest. 514A is on his way out. He is expiring. He is nose bleeding all over a game of chess.
I know.
That just after him and Alfred have had a game of chess, bloody nose, and ultimately he managed to slip out to report this and get a doctor with the Court of Owls. Like, they've got a good insurance scheme going, obviously, Court of Owls.
They obviously have all the high-end people on the payroll, so they have loads of doctors, I'm sure, that they could have had. I just wonder, this kind of made me question, if they checked the vases or the big glass tubes that were in Indian Hill, where all of these, all the Jerome was in, and where Galavan was in, and where the Brucelganger was in, do you think there would be a best before end date on the bottom of the tubes if they checked them?
Well,
like, good for 6 months.
Well, that's it. I mean, to some extent, actually, they've all got some kind of slight flaw to an extent. I mean, with Dr. Fry's, he needs that suit. Otherwise, he's really of no threat to anyone, because he has to live in the Arctic or Antarctica, depending on whether he likes the company of penguins or polar bears.
Geographer. Yes.
So, yeah. Well, that's my name. Don't worry.
I'm impressed.
The kind of thing. But yeah, it's really interesting, you know, that there was a flaw. You know, we hear that he is time limited. There was a flaw in the procedure, and
Yeah, the way Catherine explains it to him is effectively the procedure that brought you back is not without its problems. It's not perfected yet. So while the Brucelganger is a perfect specimen of Bruce Wayne and also has additional powers, the ability to jump huge distances, the ability to brawl and fight without any training, he's seriously a strong character, and I think Bruce has met him now, and Bruce was no match for him at the moment. So it is quite interesting that while he is quite a perfect specimen of Bruce Wayne, he does have this flaw, which means he doesn't stay around forever. So very interesting.
So it's a question of, will he bleed out? Will he kind of age really quickly or melt really quickly, like sort of Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark? Or and I suppose the aging from the Last Crusade. So it would be interesting to see if it's sudden when it finally gets there.
Yeah.
At the moment, these are like symptoms that something's not right, but, is he going to go out with a bang? Will he inflate and pop?
I hope not.
Or will he sort of wither and shrivel?
Yeah, you never...
Or, just explode.
We're not going to know that for a while, I'd say. It's quite interesting that they did point out that he will not expire before Bruce gets back to the city. So there's obviously a plan to bring Bruce back to the city and get him involved in what the Court of Owls are doing. So 514A is just a placeholder, effectively holding everything in situ until Bruce gets back. I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, so he is the placeholder for that training that they expect Bruce to go through.
Yeah, and hopefully they're having to convince Bruce of working with the Court of Owls, because right now don't see him working for the Court of Owls. So that's quite an interesting point as well. But I did like the other element of it. And a bit important, I suppose. Catherine calls out that she notices that he's been getting very attached to some people. Is he concerned that they may die in the wipeout of Gotham? That is the reckoning, I suppose, that's coming when Bruce comes back. But points out that she thinks he's concerned for Alfred, and that's the reason we get the scene with Selina, is to show that actually it's not Alfred that he's concerned about. While he does seem to like Alfred, it's Selina is the one that he's concerned about, and the Court of Owls don't know about her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really well.
And I think we probably get the first hint from Alfred that, he's going to catch on eventually. He wins the game of chess against Bruce, and that is surprising for him, where he is saying, did you let me win? Are you yourself? And so, okay, Brucelganger does manage to get a good enough excuse along the lines of Selina Kyle, which is always going to pull the eyes over the wool, pull the wool over the eyes of Alfred.
Absolutely.
So, but
this puppy love has driven me to lose chess to you, Alfred.
Absolutely, but we certainly get the first sort of indication that maybe Alfred will begin gradually over time to realize something is not quite right. Yeah,
because obviously, same thing with Selina. She had met the Brucelganger before, so when you've met it and you know that a doppelganger exists in the world of Gotham, if things start to go down a path where something is different and something is off about the person you're talking to, you're more likely to make that leap and make that jump. So even though he's a very good replacement for Bruce, can he really replace someone that Alfred has known since he was a boy, since he was born, effectively? Can he really replace him? Is he going to be able to keep this up long enough that Alfred won't find out, if even just the simple fact of losing a chess game can cause Alfred to question, and not liking the lasagna, or wanting the lasagna, last time.
Cottage pie.
Cottage pie.
Cottage pie.
Of course. But wanting the cottage pie last time made Alfred also question, was this Bruce? So a couple of little things like that, and it's not long before Alfred remembers that it isn't. There is a possibility that the Brucelganger is back. Yeah,
absolutely. But before that announcement of the switch and replace by the Court of Owls, we have an announcement on the Gotham stage by none other than the Riddler in his most artistic and over-the-top announcement.
I'd even call it Batman 6060, John.
Yes, maybe. I must say, I just thought the announcement on the stage whilst Hamlet is playing, in order to request, effectively, or demand, I should say, that the Court of Owls come forward and make themselves known, I thought was really, really good. It was kind of
fab.
the first part of his plan, that kind of to get everyone's eyes on the fact that he's been there. He's disrupted this high society event. He's murdered Hamlet.
I love the first person he kills is the ghost. I think that's hilarious. Officially.
And then Hamlet.
Yeah, the ghost can't come on stage because he's dead. I think is a nice little touch. Lovely little touches in this. I think it's totally to the credit of the writers. I love that the way he captures Mayor James is that he's eating a Danish. And obviously Hamlet is the Prince of Denmark. So nice little touches there. And I'm sure they're just little funny nods that they put into the script for this episode. And they work really well for a character like Riddler as well. A big reminder in our synopsis for the show, Enigma would be coming down hard on us for this. We kept calling him Ed. We kept calling him Enigma.
That is true.
He's now the Riddler. And he completely admonishes Barbara for calling him Ed. He says, because you've known me for a while, I'm allowing that once, but I am the Riddler now. That's very important.
Yeah, and that's my bad. The Riddler is going to riddle me some trouble, no doubt.
It's going to take a while. It's been 3 seasons.
That is, absolutely. But this is kind of like the first part of his plan, where it's that sort of sleight of hand to distract whilst he feeds Mayor James the Danishes. And
I'm so delighted to see Aubrey James back in this episode. He's got some great moments. And you can tell he comes from comedy, the actor himself. You can tell he comes, Richard Kind. You can tell he comes from comedy because those moments where, Bruce and Harvey are telling him that he's in danger. Enigma's coming to get him, and he's sitting there eating Danishes going, these are yummy. Until Jim says to him, who did you get them from? And he goes, just some wonderful citizen of the city. Your life is in danger. They called in advance to say they were coming because your life's in danger, and yet you'll just eat some random baked treats, which we know in Gotham cause death.
Yes, baked treats, cannoli, or Danishes really are not good for the
Gotham
tummy.
Bakery should not have many customers.
Absolutely. I kind of also want to know what on earth was in that box. I love the touch of Babs sort of whispering in his ear whilst he's blindfolded, and him suddenly freaking out over the time he was held captive by Galavan with Tabitha and Barbara, sort of keeping him on his toes, shall we speak. But he certainly doesn't want a box back over his head. So you can only imagine what may have been in it. Spiders, scorpions, snakes, rats.
Yeah.
Who knows? But he is certainly doesn't want to go back into the box so much that he gives the Riddler the confirmation of the court's existence and the name, the court. Whereas Barbara is kind of, that's no use whatsoever. Whereas Riddler takes a different perspective to it. And I suppose that ultimately leads us on to our fourth point, which is that Jim joins the court.
This was
this
was a great moment, and I must say this was something that was released in some of the press photographs that I've seen. I probably see a little bit more than John does in terms of the press. So I did know that Jim could have the potential to wear the mask. I think is what I'd seen was the images of him with the mask on. Never realized that this would actually lead to him being part of the Court of Owls. Very interesting, very cool that he's actually taking over this position after dealing with his uncle for the last few weeks. Remember, his uncle and his father were members of the Court of Owl for years. Yeah. So particularly, obviously, his uncle stayed on possibly 10 more years, maybe 15 more years working for the Court of Owls. So and he was trying to take them down. So this idea that Jim might be able to slip into the Court of Owls and take them down in a few weeks, I don't know whether that's possible. Will he find a place within the Court of Owls to do the things he needs to do in the city?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great moment when he puts the mask, the owl mask on. Really, really good.
Mine was just to throw on occasionally.
Yeah. It would be interesting to see that on sort of, say, a long haul flight. Instead of the eye patches, that everyone looks like a bunch of sleeping owls.
Well, maybe not eye patches. That's probably a pirate ship that you're thinking
Oh, well,
of.
maybe. Yeah. Well, the
Sleep
masks.
masks, yes.
Yeah, sleep masks. But yeah, no, it's a really good moment in the company of the other members of the court who are all wearing their masks. It's interesting to see that they are wearing them when he comes in, so he doesn't know who anyone else is there, and well, neither do we really. But there are moments where they are unmasked effectively when they are making decisions and so on. The mask is not a compulsory part of the dress code for the court, but yeah, he proves his loyalty to the court by bringing the Riddler to Catherine and the court, so that they can take him in and give the answers to the riddle he has always been trying to answer after Professor Strange said that, who runs effectively Wayne Enterprises.
Yeah, and he was trying to question Lucius Fox and Bruce Wayne in that moment in season 2, trying to get that information out of them because he'd been set this task and set this riddle. So I love that that's something that's been kind of building up for a year.
Definitely. One of the things as well, now that you mentioned Lucius Fox, but Lucius Fox is still somewhere captured by the Riddler.
Yeah, we saw it in the preview of the episode that the last time. Again, just a reminder is that Lucius got hit over the head in the car with Ed when Ed was announcing that he is the Riddler. So we don't know where Lucius would be. I hope we get to see him back very soon.
Yeah, but he is a prisoner.
Yeah,
definitely. So a lot of this has all come about in this moment to get Enigma to Catherine and to show his loyalty by starting to get in between the relationship between Barbara and Tabitha. And in fact, Tabitha, maybe with a few pushes from Butch, actually, is beginning to realise that maybe Barbara doesn't always have Tabitha's best interests at heart. Barbara is pretty annoyed that the plan with Mayor Aubrey doesn't pan out like she wanted, and that she won't know who the people on the Court of Owls are.
Absolutely.
And she makes that sort of scream at Tabitha, when will I be the Queen of Gotham? And Tabitha kind of just politely reminds her, when will we be the queen?
Yeah.
You promised it would be we.
Yeah.
So there's a few little fractures starting in the Babs and Tabs relationship as well, coming about because of Jim manipulating Tabitha to really make sure that Mayor Aubrey's head doesn't blow off when him and Enigma have that meeting in the precinct of the GCPD.
Absolutely. It's really cool to see that. I love those kind of moments between them. But the other big thing, obviously, is that Tabitha was promised the head of Enigma once they'd finished their plot to upset Oswald and get him out of the major power position. She was told then she'll get her chance to take out Ed. But now Barbara's found another use for him, which is really irritating Tabitha. Remember, she got a hand chopped off because of it.
Yeah.
Her and Butch almost died because of Ed and his jealous rage, and blaming them for something that wasn't their fault. So I can understand why she's feeling that their particular relationship is going badly at the moment.
Yeah, it's potentially not going to end well. And I mean, still, how will it end for the Riddler? He's just been taken in without his gun by the Court of Owls. Catherine does seem to hint that, a man of his intellect could be very useful for the court, but are they even right to trust how the Riddler will behave?
Just don't know, do you?
You really don't know. So be interesting to see how he is incorporated into the Court of Owls, because the one thing that a secret organization certainly doesn't want to have, other than being revealed, is to be infiltrated and destroyed from within. Yeah. So potentially there's two people here now, Jim Bob and Riddler Bob. So, this is potentially sealing a the downfall of the Court of Owls here by
they?
allowing this infiltration, one knowingly, the other maybe not so. But they have so many eyes and ears around the place that maybe they are also aware of Jim's plan. So who knows? There is a lot here that has the potential to go in many different directions.
One other thing about these scenes with Jim and Riddler, I did really like the moment in the car where they're waiting for Catherine to show up, and Jim's just reminding them of kind of better times.
Yeah, that
love
was
that little
nice.
moment where he's talking about the dinner date. Do you remember that time when I had you over to the house? You guys came over and I wanted to get out of it so bad, but we had a great night. I used to consider you a friend, Ed. And they were getting to that stage. They were about that stage just before Ed committed his first murder, really, or maybe it was around the time of his second murder. But they were getting to that point where they were becoming friends.
Yeah, it was more innocent times for Jim. I mean, Jim has basically gone on to be a slightly obsessive monster, really, to some extent, particularly around Leslie. And certainly, he's been in the GCPD, he's been out of the GCPD, as Harvey himself has mentioned. If we had a welcome back party every time that Jim decides to return, we would never get any police work done. So, Jim has similarly had a pretty roller coaster ride in prison, escaped. So a lot of stuff going on with Jim as well. But one of the great things to see being released back into Gotham through the helping hand of Oswald is Oswald's group of freaks.
Oh, yes. He is taking on board the advice of Poison Ivy.
Definitely.
Very well, isn't he?
I absolutely am so pleased that Mr. Freeze is back. I love that moment in his massive research igloo somewhere in the frozen wastes of some pole, that I just thought it was really, really cool, and it was great to see him back.
Was really cool.
I really think, well, and myself included, I think the Gotham writers are certainly making full use of the puns with respect to Mr. Fries, and I suspect maybe heavily influenced by the Batman movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, where, yes, similar toe-curling puns were also used. However, in the instance of Gotham, they're not toe curling. They're really good, and it was great as well to see his interaction. It's the Song of Fire and Ice, to be honest. It's like Game of Thrones, but in Gotham, when we see also Firefly being brought back onto the payroll of Penguin's freak army, and I really enjoyed seeing Bridget Pike as Firefly. It was really good to have Firefly back, and I loved how she basically said I'm leaving to her boss.
Handed in her notice, like.
Yeah. Was it molten metal right on his head? Yeah. Again, very Games of Thrones-y, very much like Daenerys' brother in season 1, having molten gold poured over his head. So, I was thinking this is Game of Thrones brought to Gotham.
There's worse places to get your inspiration from. I did love the moment with Penguin and Ivy trying to convince her, and Penguin goes, I can kill your boss for you to kind of sweeten the deal. It's like it's nothing to him. He'll just he'll take out anybody as long as he gets him what he wants, which we know is the case with Oswald.
Exactly, and for Mr. Fries, that he will fund his research in order to try and get rid of his condition. He actually wants to return to a full normal 37 degrees centigrade temperature for him as a human being, not Mansicle.
Yes, I do like the fact that, again, both of them went in and had an operation to get back the suit of Mr. Freeze from Wayne Enterprises. That's quite interesting. The two of them worked together to get this, to free the suit from Wayne Enterprises. Or Wayne Enterprises is very, very leaky, and Oswald does have a couple of connections still left in the city of Gotham. But I do like that they came armed with the suit for Mr. Freeze. So he is back in action, and we've got our freak army building.
Yeah.
It's quite cool. That's all of our top 5 points, John.
It certainly is.
I think for this week, yeah.
I think we have a Bullockism of the week.
We certainly do.
And of course, as we stated earlier in the podcast, there is the competition to win a vinyl pop of Harvey Bullock Season 1 base trading cards for Gotham, and of course some other little goodies to go into the pot as well.
Yeah. Bullockism of the week this week. One of my favourite moments is over the actor's body, over the dead Hamlet. Bullock says, "Is this Hamlet? I guess he just wasn't meant to be." And smiles, and then you just see Jim just shrugging it off. Love that moment. And then just the other one earlier on in the episode when he's making excuses for Jim, as usual, with Leslie. He's saying, "Jim's working a case." Oh, or he's walking in through the door right now.
Yeah, absolutely. No, the Hamlet one is a great little line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have a quote of the episode.
Go on then.
Yeah.
It's not Bullockism technically. Yeah. It's a Tabithism.
Yes, a Tabithism, a Galvanism. I like that. Galvanism's quite
Galvanism,
good. Yes, I just like the moment where she's talking to Ed Nidba, who she wants just so bad to just be out of the picture. She says to him, "Do you want to become famous? Try dying. I can help you with that." Which I just love, and a lovely little moment from her. Those are the Bullockisms of the week. Any notes? Anything else that we didn't cover about the episode, John?
No, I have no notes.
No. Overall, what do you think of the episode?
I would give this 3.5 Ali Moggies out of 5.
Oh no, we don't want a half an Ali Moggy. Can we raise it up to 4? Or
maybe
3?
4, 3 or 3 3/4. It could be a Manx cat without a tail,
or 3 and a kitten.
3 and a kitten,
there
absolutely. For alley cats out of 5.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
This was again a really solid episode, and to be honest, I think 2 absolute standout moments with obviously the death of Selina Kyle, and then being surrounded by the cats, and Jim putting on the owl mask and becoming a fully fledged member of the Court of Owls. And of course, it was great to see Mr. Fries and Bridget Pike back in the show. It's good to see some of these freaks back. I'm really intrigued to see what Penguin and Miss Ivy Pepper are going to do with Mr. Fries and Firefly. I still want to call him Mr. Freeze, though.
Oh, absolutely, you have to. He's Mr. Freeze when he's wearing the outfit. I know we had a new actress playing Firefly in this episode. Michelle Ventimiglia didn't return to play this role of Bridget Pike. We now have Camila Perez, who's on board playing Firefly for the rest of the season. Good job so far.
Definitely,
in this episode. Really enjoyed the moments where they're and great to see this team up of Fire and Ice and Poison Ivy and Penguin. So going to be quite cool to see that. I see what you mean about 3.5 stars. This is our 3.5 alley cats out of 5. This
3
is
alley cats and a kitten.
There we go. Thank you. I see what you mean. It's kind of a setup episode in this episode for what's to come in the next 5, and you definitely need those. We've definitely had the need for those in the past. So
yeah, absolutely. And but it's a solid setup episode. Absolutely, with some really
great moments,
critical points for this story, but also within the canon of Batman and Gotham.
Definitely. I think it's time to get on to some feedback, John.
Yeah.
So,
as always, you can send in feedback to us at feedback@gothamtvpodcast.com, or you can leave up to 90 seconds of voicemail. You just go to our website, gothamtvpodcast.com, and click on the right-hand side tab which says voicemail, and you can leave, as say, 90 seconds of voicemail to record your thoughts or comments or ideas about any episode of Season 3 of Gotham. So, fire away. We have a voicemail from Claire Payne.
That's right.
This episode started with a snowy storm leading into the calm and then ending with 3 cliffhangers, which will probably guarantee another huge storm to hit the rest of Season 3. As always, lots happening in this episode, which also oozed a few Batman 66 moments. The biggest surprise and one of the best scenes in this episode was Selina and Bruce's doppelganger. Selina being pushed through the window and laying lifeless as the cats in the alley surrounded her. It was a brilliant take on the Batman Returns scene. So will Selina, when she wakes, be part of the army of freaks? A really interesting double cross from Barbara as she reveals to Ed that Jim told her about a secret society that really runs Gotham. I like the way this angered Barbara as she's not the queen of Gotham, which also causes a fantastic argument between herself and Tabitha. The Riddler didn't disappoint in his theatrical twist of Hamlet. With some really cool costume changes to kidnap the mayor, he can expose the court live on television. Enigma finally gets his question answered, which he asked Lucius in Season 2, meeting Catherine, which he informs Jim he will be great use to the court. With this, Jim earns his place on the court, which I have to say, a very nice mask too. I also really enjoyed Ivy and Oswald recruiting a very buff Mr. Freeze and a temperamental Firefly. In Oswald's words, I think episode 18 is going to be very busy.
Thank you so much for that feedback, Claire. That's really good.
Yeah, thank you, Claire. Absolutely. I completely failed to mention it. Normally over on our sister podcast, Defenders TV Podcast, we're talking about the Marvel abs as a motif that runs through film and TV in the Marvel universe. But it might be worthwhile bringing up DC abs for a moment. Yes, Mr. Freeze or Mr. Fries looked like he didn't eat too many fries and was spending a lot of time in the gym. And as always, it was a pleasure to see on the small screen.
Absolutely, yeah.
For sure.
Those abs could cut ice.
They could. Chiseled from ice like an ice sculpture.
There you go.
Yes, he certainly did look buff. He really did. And I like your idea of Selina Kyle moving and becoming one of the army of freaks with Penguin. That's a really good idea, and probably something that is something that would happen given her relationship with Ivy Pepper. I suppose the main thing is knowing whether she's got any memory or any recollection of her former existence as Selina Kyle after this fairly traumatic event.
Yeah, absolutely. Having that connection, obviously, with Ivy. Sorry, keep calling her Poison Ivy. Having that connection with Ivy does provide a way in for. We have seen her right the way back to season 1, working with Fish Mooney, for example. Knowing that she's a freak of the city, almost taking those sides and moving along with that element of Gotham. Now that she's lost Bruce, and now that the Bristleganger has pushed her out a window, look. There's only so many ways that she can go, so I'd be very interested to see her working with Oswald. Yeah, it'd be quite cool.
Yeah, and 3 big cliffhangers here, and in particular the fractures between Babs and Tabs will be interesting to see played out. I think over the rest of the final few episodes of the season. But thank you, Claire, very much for your feedback as always. It's really good to hear you on the voicemail. Yeah, and definitely encourage other listeners to click on that right-hand side tab on our website. Remember, just go to gothamtvpodcast.com and you can leave a lovely voicemail.
Absolutely, yeah. Always love hearing them. Very simple to do. Just record it and it'll pop over to you. If you don't want to go onto the website, you can record it through any means and just send us an MP3 on email at feedback@gothamtvpodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, these episodes come out every Wednesday as we're reviewing each episode of Gotham. That was episode 17. Episode 18 will be out next week on the 11th of August, which is Heroes Rise, Light the Wick. Ooh, there's definitely an explosion coming in Gotham.
That sounds very interesting.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Yes. Explosions or just simply a gothic interior that needs a lot of candles?
Maybe.
Who knows? That Court of Owls room looks very dark.
It
needs some candles as well.
Probably needs a few candles.
But yes, our review will be out next Wednesday on the 11th of August. And of course, as always, you can go and watch our podcast over at YouTube every Wednesday as well.
Yes, and say goodbye to the podcast room. A couple more weeks, and we will have a brand new podcast area and podcast room, which we're really, really excited about.
I don't know whether you watch it though, and probably just put it on in the background still, but there's just some funky visuals to go with it.
Exactly. But yeah, looking forward to that. And again, really looking forward to the fact that we'll be covering Gotham Season 4 at the US pace. It'll be great to get back to that. We're really enjoying it.
Yes.
So, thanks for joining us. We will talk to you again next week.
Yes, I'm off to stroke a penguin. As always, it's great to speak with you, and we will speak with you again next time. Bye.
Bye.
I'm David Mazouz, and you're listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
This is Drew Powell, and you're listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
This is Robin Lord Taylor, and you are listening to Gotham TV Podcast.